Well, good morning, everybody. It is time for our morning devotional, and it is Wednesday morning. It is hump day, as they say. Our devotional title this morning is Isn't It Obvious? And our devotional verse is from the book of Amos, chapter 3, verse 3. Do two walk together unless they have agreed to meet? Have you ever been reading a book or watching a movie and it suddenly takes a turn that you just never saw coming? I suspect that today's devotional may be just such an instance. As I studied for it, I was quite surprised by what I learned. Sometimes we don't actually know what we think we know. Most of us have probably spent very little time in the book of Amos. I know I've not really. Our devotional verse is probably the best known in the entire book. And it may in fact be the only one from the book of Amos that many of us could actually quote offhand. Did you know that it doesn't actually have the meaning that we usually assign to it? Usually we see this as an illustration to interpret that people can only serve together if they agree. Now, I suppose we could apply it that way because there can be multiple applications for a scripture, but there's a deeper truth revealed in the passage where our devotional verse appears. So stay with me here. Our verse is absolutely true. Two people can only walk together if they share a common destination, and that applies to bodies of believers for sure. A local assembly must be in agreement on goals and doctrine to serve successfully together. That seems somewhat of a statement of the obvious, and the obviousness of the statement is exactly the point that we see in our devotional passage. So now we can move on to the real meaning behind this passage of Scripture. Our verse for today is part of a longer discourse that the Lord had with Amos the prophet. I strongly suggest that everybody read this entire chapter because God reveals His meaning, and I think you'll see it if you read it. But God is revealing here the certainty with which judgment against Israel was approaching. The nation had spun out of control with rebellion, idolatry, and disobedience, and Amos was delivering God's message of judgment. Verses 3 through 6 were a series of rhetorical questions whose answers seem obvious. The answers seem certain. So there you have it, my friend. When God makes a promise, whether it be for blessing or for judgment, the outcome is absolutely certain. It is as certain as the answers to those questions that He asked the prophet Amos. So our question for today is, friends, what God says will be, will be. And are you ready for that? Have a blessed day in the Lord, my friends.